The first time running an aluminum MIG weld is an experience you may never forget. If you're like me, it's a matter of burnt tips, soot everywhere, and the plates aren't even fused together, at least not very well. Now, I'm going to show you 8 things in this video that are going to help you to master the process and also clear up some misconceptions that I've seen a lot of in recent questions that have come in about MIG welding aluminum. Now, one of the most common questions that comes up is about polarity, and that's why can I MIG weld on DC, but I have to use AC when I TIG weld aluminum? See, you use DC electrode positive, same as hard wire on steel when you're MIG welding aluminum, and that actually etches off an oxide layer that sits on the aluminum surface, having the positive side of the arc there. Now, the thing about an electrical arc is most of the heat is going to go to the positive side with the electrons moving up in that direction. But since you're MIG welding and that wire is entering the weld puddle anyway, it goes into the positive side, heats up that wire, and that wire drops into the puddle and takes the heat with it. With TIG welding, you want to put most of the heat down into the material, and so if you use electrode negative to put most of the heat down here, it won't etch the oxide layer off right here. So you'll end up melting underneath that surface. It's kind of like an M&M when the chocolate melts and the candy's still there. And so the trick you use is to switch to positive for a short period of time to blast some of that oxide layer off, then switch to negative for a while to melt it and go back and forth. But since you're able to just run positive here, that etches, puts the heat in the filler metal, and that drops in the weld puddle, you're good to go on MIG. The next aspect of setup we need to talk about is feeding this soft aluminum wire. See, when you try to push it, it tends to buckle much more than steel, especially with smaller diameters and softer alloys like 4043. One of the most common solutions to this is to use a spool gun. So your spool of wires right here, it just feeds straight out and you're able to weld right there. These are really nice because you can have a long lead. They are kind of bulky though to run, and these little rolls can run out pretty fast when you're doing quite a bit of welding. Now there are a couple other ways that you can deal with this problem. Today I'm just going to use a standard MIG gun, but this one is a bit of a special setup. It's set up to be able to handle higher heat up here at the gun end, and the lead has a graphite liner inside which allows that aluminum to slide more smoothly. I've done a lot of welding with setups like this, and it can work really well as long as you're not getting too far away from the machine. The third common option is to use what's called a push-pull gun, and that basically puts the mechanism from a spool gun up at the top, but you're still pushing wire from the machine, so this keeps some tension in the wire if you have that sort of setup. But for most people, if your machine has something like this available, it's going to work just fine. A lot of people don't realize when they get their MIG welder that they're going to need a different gas to run aluminum, and instead of the argon CO2 blend, this is pure argon, and I need to crank my flow rate up quite a bit higher to be able to get a clean weld. I'm setting this around 35 CFH rather than 25 that I would have run for steel. Now, unlike TIG welding, with MIG, if you change filler alloys, it feels like an entirely different process. My recommendation would be to run 4043 whenever you can. Let me just give you some quick pros and cons of the most common 2 filler metals. 4043, which is my pick whenever I'm able to run it, runs really smoothly. It's a very clean puddle and clean arc, and just overall is easier. It'll also run with a lower amperage machine in general if you're struggling with that. Now there are a few cons to 4043, and one of those is the softer alloy makes it more difficult to feed, so it's more important to have a good setup to weld with it. Also, it's lower strength, so if that's critical to you, then you're going to be out a little on that. And it doesn't anodize quite as well as other alloys if you're going to be anodizing your parts. 5356, on the other hand, is higher strength. It anodizes well, and it's a little bit easier to feed if you have a questionable setup. Now beyond that, you got to make sure that the alloy you're using is going to work for your application, so be sure to check out one of those filler metal charts or talk to some experts in the field that you're working on and make sure that whatever you pick is going to work for whatever you're building. Now, from a technique perspective, there are a few things that are different from regular short circuit MIG on steel. One of them is you typically need a little bit longer stick out to keep that wire from burning back into your contact tip and because you're dealing with a hotter spray arc, and so a little extra stick out can go a long ways. Now, when it comes to your travel angle, a push angle is going to work better, see, because that's going to flood that gas out in front of you and help to etch that oxide layer off. So whenever you can, be sure to run a push angle. Now, travel speed is going to typically be a fair bit faster than you might be used to if you've run a lot of short circuit MIG on steel. So you've got to be ready to be on your game and move. You can use a bit of a stitch or a whip and pause type motion, or you can just push directly forward. Let me go ahead and run some welds and show you what I'm talking about on this, and we'll also take a look at settings and pulse. Now I want to make sure that I can make it all the way through the run because I'm going to have to move quickly here. Notice how fast I'm moving, and I'm maintaining as close as I can a consistent stick out and travel and work angle just to fill it in. Under the hood it looks something like this, so as soon as my puddle is established between the two plates, I'm just flying along here. And this is great from a productivity perspective, but it can be difficult from a skills perspective. You can see you get a nice smooth weld there. And this is some 1/8 inch thick plate, and in order to get enough amperage, I'm pushing a lot of wire, and so I have to move that quickly. Now here on this fillet weld in a T-joint, I'm able to use a bit of a stitching motion, and this lets me kind of control the pace at which I'm running and gives a bit of a rippled appearance too if I'm concerned with that. But I do like to use a stitching motion whenever I can. I'll just give one last shot at the end to help fill the crater. I probably could benefit by turning on my downslope to fill the crater on this, but I'm not using it today, nothing fancy, at least at this point. Now, as I stitch my way along there, the same fundamentals of consistent arc length and angles apply, and you can see I get a nice weld with some push through on the back. We'll look at the differences along the length. Now let's look at settings. So settings are one of the most important parts with aluminum MIG, and from my experience, every machine I've ever used from any manufacturer needs to be fine-tuned and dialed in on aluminum. Now, when you're adjusting your wire speed, you actually are also controlling your amperage. So that's your main source of heat, but the voltage does this. It controls arc length. See, if my voltage is too low, I start shorting out and my wire stubs out against the workpiece, and that's not going to give me enough heat to have a good weld. Here, as I increase it, this is still shorting out a little bit and dropping large droplets, so it's getting closer and probably could produce an acceptable weld. But what I really want is this sweet spot here where I have a nice spray arc that's always on. I'm not stepping out at all. But if my voltage goes too high, that arc length gets really long and it's hard to control. It could just be too much heat and spread your weld out too much. So if you look through here, you can see the result. Definitely a big difference as I increase that voltage, and I'm looking for a sweet spot just like that right there that ended up on 19 in this case. But if you just go through this Goldilocks type experiment, you can find the exact spot that you need. Now let's talk for a second about pulse, as that's becoming a little bit more common on some machines. Now pulse will move you between a couple different settings and just give you an added level of control. See, I'm on the same 1/8 inch thick lap joint, but I don't have to fly along here. I can just kind of sculpt the weld the way that I like. I will say that I haven't seen a lot of good results from some of the really cheap machines with pulse. So if this is a tool that you're interested in, I definitely invest in a nicer machine. But look at the difference between the two. With pulse, I can really control it. And when you're actually fabricating on a project, it's a huge benefit because you just get a little bit more time to be able to manipulate it. Now this is double pulse, and double pulse alternates between a high and a low pulse setting. And this can be another useful tool to just help pace progression and further control your heat, especially if you want to weld on really thin material. And, this machine works really good. It's worth investing in some good quality equipment if this is something important to you. But if straight DC is enough for you, budget equipment will work okay. Now it's important to be aware that your settings might not be ideal at the start and end of your weld because aluminum conducts heat so well that heat can run up ahead of you. And on these little coupons, that's really exaggerated. You can see if we look at the backside, just how much more heat you get at the end there. So the settings are almost too hot at the end and too cold at the start. So you really need to find some middle ground. A little preheat can help, and some advanced settings on advanced machines can also help with that, but it's important to be aware of. Hey, well, thanks a ton for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this or learned something, let me know by leaving me a comment or hitting that thumbs up below. We'll see you next time.